Okay. Okay, sent the request, view, go. Fingers crossed this works, guys. Hi, Shoshana. Yes, you can hear me.
Okay, that worked.
Yay! Okay, so we got that. Were you able to jump onto Facebook?
So Facebook, it's not giving me the option to go live there.
From your computer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's from my Jayne Allen page. So, because there's a Jayne Allen Writes page and a Jayne Allen page, so I think that is not
working on that platform.
It doesn't seem like it's working.
I'm wondering if it's the device that you're on. Maybe it's not.
I'm on my computer. I can comment and chat there.
But you just can't pop on.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's fine. We can just.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. If you guys want to see Jayne, she's over on our Instagram page. So if you want to head over there and see, you'll probably be able to hear her a little bit from the connection over here on this video. I'm going to turn her up a little bit. So there we go. So y'all be able to hear her, but you won't be able to see her. Okay. But if you guys what'd you say?
I can see the comments on Facebook. I just can't join the video for some reason.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so let's get this started. Welcome to everybody. I'm Renee. Y'all know me. I have a special guest today, author Jayne Allen, and we are here to discuss both our April book of the month, which is Queenie. I have to do this on 2 pages, and then Jayne's book, Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. So
I have both too.
Yes, nice collection of books. So we'll be discussing these 2 lovely books. They were kind of perfectly aligned. Like it
couldn't be better.
I saw you comment on your post today saying like Queenie's like in the 20s, and then your book is like the version of the woman in the 30s, which was right on target. It was It was really good. I really enjoyed both of them. But thank you so much for taking the time to come on here with us and go live.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes, it's so exciting. I'm so excited to get this going. So let's see. I guess let's start with Queenie. You want to do that? And then we'll give you... Okay. We'll start with Queenie. So I finished this morning. I have to read the books closer to the chat because I read so much that if I don't, then I'll just forget that happened. So, one of my comments that I posted in the group earlier this week was that Queenie is just a hot mess. Like, that was my only way to describe her, was that she was just an absolute hot mess. And, someone was going, I think it was Shoshana, and she's on the Facebook chat, but she was like, well, you have to remember she's 25 and she's still very young and she makes a lot of mistakes. And I'm just like, I had to think about where I was as a 25-year-old, and I was like, I feel like I was much more mature than she was. But
most of us would be.
Yeah. I'm like, at that time, I'd purchased my first home. Like, I was just doing a lot. But I think with Queenie, or the difference between when I was doing a comparison of myself and Queenie, was that I have a great support system behind me. So I have that guidance of other adults that are, able to guide me through things. If I have questions or just people to lean on, I'm able to do that. And Queenie had nobody. Like, to me, I mean, she had her girlfriends, which sometimes they were kind of sketchy on the advice that they would give her, but yeah, see, like Rosa said, 25-year old enough to have common sense. Yeah, I just that was my thought. Yeah,
this is definitely a flawed character, and the interesting thing from a writer's perspective on first person narratives, you know, as a reader, and I had to remind myself of this too, because I was like, when I was in my 20s, I was not this much of a hot mess.
Yeah.
But the writer is giving you this journey, you know, of this person, and there's always a balance in writing between relatability and authentic narrative. And the more you make it relatable, the more you drive away from authentic narrative. So, like, you know, the most relatable books don't have the rawest narrative. You know, it's not as authentic, and you're constantly balancing that. So with Queenie, I think one of the most important things to think about is that this may not be a relatable protagonist for most people, because this woman has, you know, mental illness. She's coping with first undiscovered mental illness, you know, unacknowledged, you know, and then you go on this journey with her. So I think the author skewed more in the direction of raw and an authentic narrative than trying to make her relatable.
And see, for me, that's what made the book, why I liked it so much, is because she wasn't your typical character, cookie cutter, okay, she's going to fall in love with the boy. It was like, she was doing some things that I had never seen in a book. You know? I don't even think that I've read a book with a character with a mental illness. And we also had this discussion earlier in the group, because someone was like, I don't know if I would define her as having a mental illness. So I had to do the research and actually, you know, read the definition of what a mental illness was, and spot on. It was exactly the things that she was doing. So I felt like after reading that, and kind of it made me think, like, because I really had no knowledge prior to, you know, mental illnesses. So it was really good for me to be able to read that and learn more about it. But yeah, spot on to the definition that I found, and I blogged about it earlier. But it basically, her behaviors were aligned very much so with having a mental illness.
Yeah, well, that's something. So you know, I think I read a lot of the reviews too for Queenie, because I wanted to kind of get a sense of what readers might want to talk about. And it was mixed. You know, some people, and I see some people in the Facebook chat, they really did not like Queenie as a protagonist, and I can understand why, especially if you're out of your 20s, number one, and then number two, you know, if you're not that dysfunctional.
Right.
But, you know, with the challenge with first person narratives, and I can say this in having written a first person narrative with Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, is that you don't have what I call the tour guide. And the tour guide is that omniscient narrator who's kind of translating everything for you and not sanitizing it, but giving you access points. Like, you know, this is actually what you're observing, reader, and this is what's happening from an objective perspective. When you're doing it from a first person perspective, you have the limitations of that protagonist guide. You're living in through their eyes, and your experience is limited by their limitations. Which is kind of fun as a writer, because it's just like, okay, well, what she's not aware of, you know, you're going to grow along with this protagonist and have that same limitation. So some people, you know, I could understand why Queenie would make you very uncomfortable as a reader, because you're living her life, and it, you know, that's just, it was a lot of dysfunction to live through, and it was uncomfortable, it was painful. So part of that is building, you know, a skill set of empathy in some respects. You know, and you have every right to like it, dislike it, be comfortable, be uncomfortable. The one thing I will say is that the marketing positioning, comparing it to Bridget Jones' Diary, I thought it was not at all.
A lot of people said that too after reading it. They're like, I don't understand the, you know, the comparison of Bridget Jones. Like, it's not. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I think that set a lot of people up for disappointment, because, you know, Bridget Jones is so light, it's like quirky, funny, it's funny the whole way through. That was not Queenie.
Francesca to me was funny. Like, I actually did the audiobook version of this, and to actually hear the accents, their British accents and stuff, was really cool. And just the way Francesca, like, her accent, and she'd be like, "Yo, fam," like that's how she talks,
Yeah.
and it's hilarious
Yeah.
to me. And I'm like, I'm gonna be walking around saying, "Yo, fam," like that's
Yo,
her
fam.
favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, "Yo, fam," like what's going on, So, I really did appreciate Francesca as one of her friends, because I feel like she was the only one that really looked out for Queenie, in a sense. And actually, what was the other character? Darcy, that her coworker. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Darcy looked out
Yeah.
for her too.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was just a lot
It was
going
so
on with
deep.
Queenie, yeah. And
Oh yeah, and the sexual exploits. I was not prepared. I was like, whoa, this is deep.
yeah,
But it's like you do kind of have to suspend. You just have to suspend yourself and just dive into this
right,
and really make it, this particular perspective, because it's not. And I think this is what is great about having a wide range of African American narratives, right? Because like
mm-hmm.
what Queenie experienced is not every Black woman's experience. She had some self-hatred issues.
Yes,
She wouldn't date Black men. She had enormous amount of family trauma,
yep,
way beyond my protagonist.
yeah,
And so you really, you have to kind of suspend and just go through and, okay, I'm going to see out of curiosity and for understanding, and just stuff that you would never even realize that someone would do in
right,
this space,
right,
and try to find aspects maybe of yourself that you can learn from, like, well, maybe I didn't do this at this extreme, but did I
right.
do something
There's something else, right?
on that path,
Yep, yep. I agree. And I wish they had gone more into depth with why she didn't want to date Black men.
Yeah,
I'm
me too.
assuming, my guess is because of her mom's situation with Roy and all of the things, the abuse that she saw her mom go through. Maybe that was a reason, but I wish there had been more explanation as to why. Because I just looked at that as like, really her hating herself and who she
Yeah.
is, like continually sleeping with white men who basically just looked at her as this sex object, like another check off their list, like, oh, I'm sleeping with this Black exotic girl with these big boobs and this big butt, and it's like they're not really
Mm-hmm.
appreciating and valuing her, and she continues to put herself in that situation over and over again. And even as she's healing, she still makes that choice to date that last white guy. I don't know if his name was Courtney or whatever, but she still
Yeah.
was going in that direction. And yeah, it was just crazy. All of them were toxic or just harmful in
Every
some sort
single,
of way.
even Tom,
Yeah,
was toxic, where she couldn't, she didn't feel empowered and entitled to demand, actually being protected, where she also couldn't protect herself and never felt entitled to that,
yeah,
until I guess towards the end. But we're dealing with a very damaged person. So, but I think that all of us, I just went to the African American Museum in DC. So
oh,
just in
nice.
DC.
Yeah,
And it was an amazing experience for me. And I only made it through the bottom 3 floors because
wow.
I just stayed. I couldn't, I was like, I can't stop. I would, watching the videos. I need to read everything. I think I took a million pictures. And the horrors of what, Black people have been subject to in this context of colonialism, slavery. You're necessarily detached from your emotions, in how you have to go through life. Because like in slavery, for example, even in the civil rights movement, I watched how, they had to go through basically desensitization training, blowing smoke in each other's faces so that they wouldn't respond when they're sitting at the lunch counter. All of this stuff, it's like this continuous dissociation from your emotions
Right.
relative to like how you act or whatever. And that does, that has to have some kind of negative impact. And so I think in this story, like you see the grandmother, like, we don't go to therapy. You know how much, horrible stuff I carry on my shoulders.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but should you have to? And then
Right.
what
Exactly.
does that manifest itself as, right?
A
And
lot of
we
times,
see one.
right. As a lot of times as Black women, we're seen as the protector, so we end up taking on this load that, you know, we're always last or the bottom of the totem pole. It's like everybody else can take care of themselves, and then it's like we've got to take on, you know, all of that. Yeah, it was a lot. I'm glad that her family accepted her going to therapy because she really needed that. So
I was worried.
Yeah. I was like, where are we going? Because right now you're just, it's not looking good. There was a lot going on with Queenie, and it was funny to me that she was an advocate for Black Lives Matter, but at the same time, it's like you're sleeping with all these white guys and not really putting yourself, you know, as something that matters.
Your
so
life.
Like you're fighting for it's like you're not fighting for yourself, but you're fighting for this cause. So it was kind of like, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing here? And you're chasing after, you know, white men. So it's like, how much do you really value the lives of Black people? You know what I mean? And appreciate them.
If you can't start with your own. Right,
exactly. So it was crazy. And even, go ahead.
Well, no, it was interesting though that she did go to the clinic regularly to get checked out.
Yeah.
or to find out if she was pregnant or not. That was interesting too.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm glad that she did that.
Yeah, at least the minimum.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was all bad. Yeah. But it's just one thing after another. I'm like, because I was chatting about it in the group as I was going, and somebody was like, all the trips to the clinic, and I'm like, there's more? Like, she keeps going through this? I'm like, it gets worse than this? They're like, oh yeah, just wait. It was bad. And then like sleeping with her friends, or I think it was her friend, her man, and was like, gosh. And then the friend gets mad.
When did you guess that? When did you guess that might be it? Did it surprise you, or did you kind of have a?
It did surprise me when it finally like all started to unravel, and it was like, okay, well, you know, it surprised me. Did you catch on to it ahead of time, or
a little? I had a hint when did I think that it was him? I thought it kind of maybe several pages before it actually happened. I started thinking, because she started dropping little hints, I felt like, but I also kind of, if I'm about to drop something on a reader, so it might be my writer's mind, but I was like, there's about to be this is about to connect in a way that we didn't expect.
Yeah, I did feel bad for her, like losing the friend, which was probably better off for her. But I was like, she didn't know that was your man. Like, you've kept him hidden from your friends, and you know how it was more important for him to meet your family, and you kept going on, and you didn't introduce her. How was she supposed to know that this guy that she's sleeping with is your man? So for you to get upset and blame her when essentially
that was awful.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, some of the things that she said, I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, that's so, as a friend, that's horrible. And it's, you know, and it was interesting to think about that character in that way, because, you know, and I started thinking about the power dynamic between Cassandra and Queenie. And it was like, Cassandra, as long as she had everything Queenie didn't, she was fine.
Yep.
But as soon as Queenie had a one-up on her, she just went toxic as hell. And I was like, woo, this is a terrible person.
Erica just said Cassandra was ridiculous over that trash dude. Yeah, she really was.
Trash dude. He was a trash dude.
Really was. All of them were trash. I was like, even Tom. I'm like, Tom wasn't as bad as some of the others, although he didn't defend Queenie, but he was still pretty trash too. And also, I was looking back at their flashbacks, and I like the way that they did that. But Tom, like, she didn't treat Tom very nicely, even in their best days. Like, she was very, it's like she had a wall up, and she would just, you know, it was weird, but you could see that she was pushing him away slowly, but surely. Yeah.
And it made me wonder about her other relationships. Was she, you know, pushing people away, like other friendships, you know, and how those people managed to kind of get through her wall? And was it just a guy thing? I thought it was interesting about, because she couldn't depend on her father, the therapist said that you treat guys as disposable. And I wondered if that also, she kind of treats herself as disposable. And, you know, and then I thought about, you know, I've dated guys that aren't black, and I'm going to say this. If I was at their house and what happened to me happened, what happened to her, yeah, the uncle happened to me, and my guy did not stand up for me, I would not, yeah, deuces to the most. Like, we're done, you know, and don't call me.
Yeah, and that's
Ever.
it's crazy that you say that, because, you know, I'm single, I'm divorced, so in the dating world, when we get to your book, I'll have some choice words for that too.
Yeah.
But the dating world, I always think about dating outside my race, but that reading up on the history, that's been my thing, is reading up on Black history and really learning about it as an adult, because I didn't get to as an adolescent. And that scares me, to date a white guy, like, because of some of the things that Queenie's gone through, and you just don't know what their true intentions are. That really scares me in the dating world. Like, I want to be open to dating, but I'm like, I don't know, man.
You have to be ready.
Yeah.
I mean, I dated a guy who was Indian for 8.5 months.
Wow.
And I didn't realize, he explained to me that there was cultural endemic racism towards Black people.
Wow.
And, you know, he didn't introduce me to his friends for this period of time, you know, and I think, and I realized I had to really evaluate. I think as a writer, certain experiences, I find you know, I'm like observing more than I'm in it completely. And I never realized that culturally there could be barriers and the burden that person, it's not even like just you as the, you know, but that person, like, he would basically have to go against his entire family structure, cultural structure, everything everyone he knows, everything he knows. And it's like, do you have the strength to do that?
Right.
And that's one of the questions I wouldn't have ever thought to ask. I wouldn't say I wouldn't. I mean, I'm equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta act right, you know. But I never thought to. I learned in that experience that you really need to have somebody who has the strength, and maybe it's beyond basic strength, to stand up to their comforts, you know, and everything they know, and they've got to put you first in a way that, you know, is at odds with everybody in their family. And then how long would you have to date before they start making those kinds of decisions, you know?
Right. And it's crazy because, you know, I'm originally from Canada. So in Canada, it's like everybody's blended, mixed.
Yeah.
My cousin has a Black husband here. You know, my Black cousin has an Asian wife. Like, this is just what we do. And it's so normal. And it's not something you even have to think about because it's so accepted. But here in the South, it's like a completely different story. And I find myself thinking, like, could I really do this? Am I up for that task to, you know, because it's like people are constantly going to be looking at you, especially with the way society is today. Like, you really have to think about that. And we read Eloquent Rage in February, and I've actually read it twice, but Brittany Cooper kind of touches on that, why Black men tend to date white women is kind of, it's almost like a revenge type thing when they're like, there was somebody in there specifically that said that he would sleep with white women intentionally because it was like revenge as far as slavery is concerned. Like, it's the reverse. Like, now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So it was really, it makes you think when you're in this dating world. It's like, you know, you want to be open to love, but in the back of my mind still, it like, you know, there's just that little,
yeah. But brothers have issues too. I can say that for certain. I mean, like, for men. But you know, it's I think as a woman, and you know, being single, especially as you're older and you can take care of yourself in certain respects, it's like you start asking, what do you really need? And if I need somebody who's gonna stand up for me and protect me and put me first, you know, whatever race. And I found that I've had problems getting that no matter what. Just different circumstances and different, you know,
that's it,
issues. But
yeah,
you know, I don't.
Yep. Yep. I'm with you on that one. So, but
Yeah.
overall, I think I loved Queenie. I know that, like you said, I looked out of reviews and didn't know where I was going to fall. Actually really enjoyed it. I was happy to see her kind of heal it and get back
Yeah.
on the up, and have that support. And I think it was awesome to end that dinner scene surrounded by friends and family that truly supported her. And when she made that final decision to just delete Tom's number, I was like, yes, Queenie. Like, I want to hug her because she just looked absolutely crazy. Like, this man has moved on. You're sleeping with these other guys, but still hoping that you'll be able to get back with Tom. And it's like, you just so badly wanted to just like shake her and say, wake up, since he's
Right.
done with you.
Yeah.
Move on.
Wake up, fam.
Yeah. Exactly. Wake up. Like, yo, fam. As
Exactly. Wake up.
Francesca would say.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I really, really
I
enjoyed
wonder
that one.
for
It
the
seemed like the group.
you're pausing. On Instagram you're pausing. I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, there you're back. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay. Better.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Now
Okay.
I can.
Sorry.
I can hear you, but you got a little bit of
You were
delay.
saying, I think you were saying something. It broke up.
Okay. Okay. What I was saying with
Start
Queenie,
Instagram.
I can see you're in full motion on Facebook and then kind of delayed on Instagram. This is interesting. Okay. The thing that I was gonna say about Queenie, I think that if it hadn't been set up as Bridget Jones' Diary, I think it would have been a different experience, and I would have expected something different. I think other readers would have expected something different in terms of the narrative, which was a good lesson for me as a writer in terms of marketing positioning. It's like you really, you really have to be careful how you're setting the reader's mind up for what they're about to experience, because this, Bridget Jones' Diary is so light and funny and quirky, and you're not this person maybe is a little neurotic in Bridget Jones' Diary, but Queenie really has a serious mental illness, and we're going through like a literal mental breakdown off the rails, and so and if you don't know that it's going to get dark, then you're not prepared for that experience. So, I wonder, for the people who had challenges relating to the book, would it have been a different experience if the marketing description had been set them up to expect something different? Because I think it's a very worthwhile narrative to read.
And that's why I was I'm looking at the book now, because nothing on the back of the book says that, but I know on Amazon and on Goodreads it does have that Bridget Jones comparison on there.
Yeah, I think Kirkus put that on my hardcover. It's the first thing they put.
Oh, on there. See,
they call it Black Bridget Jones.
I have the advanced copy, so I guarantee it's
okay. So that was before they got the Kirkus.
Yep.
Yeah, so they printed that before they got the Kirkus review. So then they got the Kirkus review, and then they use that as a marketing lead language. So that's it's a really interesting kind of lesson to see. I wonder, from a writer perspective and a publisher perspective, I wonder if the author agreed with that positioning, and if she because it seems like Kirkus said it, and then the publisher was like, yes, that's great, that's going to sell us a lot of books, let's go with that, but then not really connecting to how the reader experience would actually relate to that positioning and the ultimate effect of their experience, with different expectations.
Right. Yep. Okay. So with that, I think I'm ready to move on to your book, Black Girls Must Die. I've been dying to talk to you about this. Like, I was so obsessed with this book. I work out at 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was many days where I'll just walk up and down the street in my house, and I was like this, walking up and down.
I love
it. Getting my cardio in with a book light in the dark, like walking. So I absolutely, yes, I love this book. And actually, between you and I and everybody else that's watching this, we actually took a poll in the group to compare the books and see which one everybody liked better. And I think Queenie might have had one vote. Your book votes as far as their favorite of the two.
Thank you.
So everybody really enjoyed your book, and
thank you.
And we're looking forward to chatting tonight. So we are super excited. So I don't know. I guess first I can ask you why. Yeah, no problem at all. In my review, no problem at all. In writing my review, I had to there was just so much going on in the good way that I actually, to make sure I hit everything, I had to break it characters and just kind of do a summary of each character, because each character brought something special to this book. And I don't even know if I could pick up a favorite. It's probably Miss Gretchen, either Miss Gretchen or Grandma Tabby. Or two. But there was so much going on. Each character just brought something to the table. So it was fun to analyze. But I guess before we really get into it, I want to kind of, I guess, backstory of what inspired you to this book, and real life situation that, where did that come from?
It was inspired by real life situation. A couple. Can you hear me?
Let's try. Is it mine delayed, or am I still?
You're delayed. Am I delayed? Am I coming through clear?
Delayed on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah, you're delayed on Instagram. But I don't hear anything. Okay. Well, I'm gonna. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Mine's delayed a little bit.
Okay. So. Okay. So I'm gonna respond to your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
But it's not
I put the sound up a little bit on Facebook so I could hear. So, okay, so you're in real time on Facebook and delayed on Instagram. So to answer the question, it's inspired by things that happened to me, and it made me realize with the environment that we're in, and it was just getting going really in 2016. There was the Sandra Bland and the police brutality. I watched this HBO movie with I can't remember her name right now, but she was there was a police brutality. It was a video. It was so hard to watch. She looked like a rag doll getting thrown to the ground. And I just, as a Black woman, it was just frightening to feel like you have no ability to control your safety. You just feel like that. I'm thinking about my experience at the African American Museum, because it sounds a lot like, even the era of lynchings, and not saying it's the same thing, but it was the same fear that people felt, this, inability to control for your safety. And then I, started thinking about all these other things. There's a Black maternal health issue, and there's just so many issues that we face, in particular as Black women. And I felt like, what I really want to do is acknowledge and celebrate us for our strengths, and not really to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge the struggle to celebrate the strength that, that get you through the struggle. So I wanted to do that. But this is my piece of happiness is an emotional scene for me when she got stopped. I wanted to use this as a vehicle for people to be able to understand perspective, to relate and to understand, in as much as, you know, they're willing and able to, whether they're Black or not Black. And even as a Black person, you know, I've had many different conversations about the, you know, Black Lives Matter movement, police, over policing, police brutality. People have different opinions and different views. And what I really wanted to do was make nothing black and white in this video, and no pun intended, but it's everything has two sides. And I wanted to make sure that there was space for the reader to insert their perspective and opinion and view, and to give them something to talk about with other women, whomever, and to come up with their own conclusions. But the most important thing was to bring the topic up. You know, for reproductive health, we have, you know, fibroids, we have, you know, egg freezing. If you're single and you haven't had kids yet, like me, I wrote this book right when I had turned 40. I was freezing eggs then, you know, and there was so much information I didn't have. I don't have Tabby's affliction, but you know, for me, I was like, okay, well, for somebody in their 30s, which is when you really should be thinking about this, you don't think about it. So what would make somebody have to think about this in their 30s? So that's how we got, you know, she has premature ovarian failure, so now she's got to think about this stuff, and now she's got to deal with it, where most of us don't until it's too late. But it's not because of something that happened. It's also because of something that snuck up on you, but it's your age. It's not like a disease, you know? So she's actually living out something that people live out later in life. And the title, that was kind of the journey. And I wanted to, basically, if you could take, for me, what being 30 and Black female and single, like a professional Black woman, single in your 30s, if that was an orange, you could squeeze that orange. That juice is the book. This is the juice of the orange that is being 30 and single as a professional Black woman. So from my vantage point, or, you know, from the way I kind of, the things that I've seen, it's not my personal life experience. So that's how the book came.
And I know a lot of our group members, that's reasons why they really loved it, is because they could relate to so much of what Tabby was going through as a woman. And you know, with me being single, dating, and trying to figure out life and balance a career and, you know, own a business, it's a lot going on, and it's like, how do you do it all? You really are exhausted, like day in and day out. It's really, you know, it's a good feeling to have your own and stuff like that, but it's working for it. And she just had so much going on with, you know, trying to freeze her and the cost for that. And then she's saving up for her dream of wanting to buy, you know, her first home. And it's like, this is what I really want. This is what I really want too. So it's like,
and
how do you decide?
Real choice. Yeah, I mean, you know, especially when you're in your 20s. I mean, like, people don't know egg freezing, for example, is best before 35, right? But what are you really doing before 35? Like, you're trying to get yourself established. You know, you're like, I want to buy my home. I want to do this. And it's like, okay, you got $10,000, you know, which is about the cost of doing this. Are you going to freeze eggs as an insurance policy? Or are you going to think in the back of your mind, you know, I'm going to get married. I don't need to do that. I'm going to get my financial footing set. So people aren't making those choices in that way, but it's like, but you actually kind of have to make those choices in that way. And it's this, you know, it's a space where all you can do is talk about it with other people and try to come to, you know, get as much information, you know, like our Queen Sister Beyonce would say. You know, and that was kind of how I looked at this, is like, you know, let's get information, you know, like this is sort of that, hopefully it's a catalyst, you know, where it's a book you just want to talk about with your girlfriends. And in that process, then you start talking about topics that we don't usually talk about, like mental health, like reproductive health, you know, like even, you know, dating and self-care, and
Right.
what does having it all really mean today?
Right.
Do we still
Yeah.
have to live out the lives that our mother's generation thought was the way to do it? So there's just so many
Right.
questions to answer, and I hope people are talking about it.
Because like our parents, they were having kids in their early 20s, sometimes even their teens. So it's like, they got married very young, and whereas
Yeah.
women of today, we're career driven. Like we're building the foundation first, and then sometimes some of us are content with the way things are. So it's
Yeah.
yeah. She had some very difficult decisions to deal
She
with,
did.
and the thing, even having Mark, he he was a character in itself. I liked him at first, but then it was like as we need to get to know him and his issues, and I wanted to punch him.
I
much
think Tabby did too.
like
I
much
was
like
like,
Tabby did.
you said what?
I said I wanted to punch him
Yeah, yeah.
because I just he needed to get it together.
I think Tabby
Like,
probably did too. She punched him with some words. She definitely
yeah,
did.
yes, I felt like his excuses were kind of a cop out, and it was like he was just going through the motions. And there's nothing I hate more than time wasted. So it's like, if you're just about me, let me go. Like, let me find somebody who really is 110% about me. Don't just waste my time and just because it's something to do. But I think the signs
Right.
are also kind of there. You know what I mean? If you're really in love with somebody and really like somebody, like you want more than just a Saturday date. Like you want to be around them all the
Yeah.
time. You'll squeeze them into your schedule no matter what. So it's like, if a guy's not doing that, on the other hand, if you're not mad about a guy, it's like, what are we here? We're just wasting time. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we have these, we have these kind of superficial interactions that kind of go both ways sometimes, and without really thinking about the other person, um, and that could just easily happen in a professional kind of a relationship between two professionals. It's like, oh, well, this makes sense, but it's not giving one or the other person what they need, and it's like you don't even really realize that until shit gets real. Excuse my French, but
no, you're right.
but when it gets real, then
Right,
it's like, okay, well, what do you really have, and or who are you really, and
right.
they have to find that out oftentimes the hard way. So it
Yeah,
was there were a few scenes that were fun and challenging to write emotionally, because I'm like, well, now this does look like something I've been through, but
right. And it almost makes me wonder, like, had she not gone to the doctor and learned about, having to freeze her eggs and all of that stuff, how much more time would she have wasted with this guy? Like, when would you have had the conversation of where's this going? Because it
right,
seems like they were kind
you
of just
think you have time.
coasting. So it could have gone on another couple of years before anybody would have settled down or figured out that it wasn't right. So I mean, I think the timing of that was good for her to be able to move on and figure out life. But
Yeah.
yeah, Mark. I started not to like him. I liked him at first. Like I was like, oh, okay, this guy's got it going on. Checking off all the items on the list and stuff like
Right.
that. The more you discovered about him and his issues, it was like, oh, here we go. Like, how many of us have gone through this over again?
Right. Everybody has a mark.
I loved that she had. Yes, that's it. We all. And then I also loved her. Layla.
Mhm.
Lexi, is kind of on the fence with her because she seemed like she was above everybody else until her stuff got real, and it kind of knocked her back down a little bit to reality.
Mhm.
But I loved Layla. I loved how real she was
Layla.
as a friend. Yeah, yeah. I felt like
Uh,
she was just always there for Tabby. And then of course, she went through her own issues as well.
mm,
Sorry,
Oh.
getting
Okay.
battery warnings over here.
Okay.
But I loved actually in both books that they had girlfriends that they could, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Lexi and
Mm-hmm.
Rob were a hot mess as well.
Right.
But the crazy
Right.
part is
Yeah, no,
Lexi, like,
Lexi.
yeah, you couldn't feel bad for her because it was like, this guy's been doing this since you guys were in what, high school or whatever, and it's like, this is what you signed up for, you know? It's
Yeah.
like you can't feel
When
bad.
I read Queenie, I was thinking that Cassandra and reminded me a little bit of Lexi. Like Cassandra could maybe would not necessarily. I think Lexi's a better friend than Cassandra is, but
Yeah.
I think that that could have been the natural evolution of a Cassandra, for example, is like one of those people, kind of like Lexi, who is invested in appearances, but then, is not going to be. And as long as she's doing better than everybody else, she's fine. But as soon as, something goes down, she falls apart in the way that she does.
Yeah.
It's like, so I definitely thought about Lexi when I was reading about Cassandra and how she, responded to Queenie's, or the situation with her boyfriend and that mess with
Yeah.
Queenie. And I did think about Laila too with, I don't know how to pronounce, it was in the book, it was, is it Francesca in the audio? Because
Yes. Yep. They
it's,
called her, yeah,
it's
Francesca.
the way that in the book it's like
Cheska. Yep. They
Cheska.
call her Cheska in the audiobook. Yep.
Yeah, it's spelled like, I'm gonna spell this for you because you gotta.
Yep.
I was like, this is interesting that there's two. It's Kyazike.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I
Wow.
know. I was like, oh, that's how you pronounce that. Because I was like, so they both have friends with unpronounceable first names,
Yeah.
but they have similar personalities. So I was wondering, like that kind of tough as nails friend, who is, kind of the backbone friend, but still has her own issues. And I wanted to get more, know more about that friend story in Queenie. And Laila was one of my favorite characters. I mean, I love all of my characters in Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, but Laila, I just loved her spunk and her strength, even through her own challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. She was still a very good friend. At the end of the day. Um, I liked, so where did the inspiration for Miss from? Because she was one of my favorite characters. Did you have a Miss Gretchen in real life, that someone like that, or is she just someone you came up with?
Yeah, Miss Gretchen. So Miss Gretchen was kind of an invention, but Miss Gretchen is like the person that I would love to be when I'm, 90 plus years old. But
Unreal.
yeah, but she was, when I was crafting Miss Gretchen, I was like, okay, well, what does a woman, kind of ahead of her time look like, who realized at some point that her life was about her own happiness, and not that she's perfect, but she's got the benefit of, 90 plus years, 92 years. So what does that look like? And it was great to have that juxtaposition for Tabby because,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to show different angles and aspects of this experience, and different perspectives on it. So Ms. Gretchen was really important for me, as a writer, and she was really fun because I got to ask myself, okay, well, what is, the benefit of wisdom? You've lived through it, you've seen it, you've tasted it, you got you know what is good and what's not for the most
Yep.
part. And how would you, with the perspective of all those years, you're just, would you view these kinds of things that probably are trivial in a sense, but what would be that wisdom or that view? And so she was so fun to write.
She was. I loved her. She's just a reminder to live life. Like, she's like, oh, I'm going to get my nails
Yeah.
done. I'm traveling here. Like, this desk person is not going to stop me. My Uber's outside. Like, get your
Right.
stuff together because I'm out of
They're
here.
trying
Like,
to
this
stop
is, I
me.
don't know
Yeah.
who you are, but you get with the program. And that's pretty much
Right.
what it was. Like, okay, Miss Gretchen's telling you how it is, and that's what it is. Like, you better get with the program or you're going to get left behind. So I loved her for that. It was just a reminder to just live life. Like, you know, no matter how old you
Yeah.
are, like, just live life.
Right. Just live it
And I
out.
love
Yeah, this
that.
it's it was, and I love that she, as I was writing, she just really did crystallize as a character in my mind. So I could just hear her, like it'd be something that would happen. I could just hear what Ms. Gretchen would say. And I mean, even now when I'm like doing something, I have my inner Ms. Gretchen. I'm like, what would Ms. Gretchen say about it?
Yes.
So,
We need like a bracelet, like not the what would Jesus do, but what would Miss Gretchen do? Like, that's what
right.
we need some of
What
those.
would Gretchen do? I know.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I loved seeing her at work in her workspace too.
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of people deal with a Chris and a Scott and even a Lisa who is just only concerned and only in her little bubble and not thinking that other people may be dealing with things or have other things going on. So Chris was very interesting to me, just the commentary and things that he would say to Tabby, and I'm just like, did he really just say that? Like,
Hmm.
because leading up to it, you really thought that was going to be the one to get that promotion. He was just so. I was so happy
Yeah.
the way you wrote that, and he yeah, she got it, and she was like, what? Like me, because everybody was just so certain that even him walking into the meeting was
Even
like, yeah,
him. Yeah.
sorry to tell you this, that I got this. It's not brand new.
Yeah,
Like
maybe next
everybody
year.
else,
Yeah.
I worked harder than you. So it was nice to see her get that position, although I hated that Chris was like, well, you didn't really earn this, but I'm giving it to you anyways, But in the end, she
Mhm.
did, end up proving herself with that story and having that breakout opportunity. So I really appreciated that she actually did earn that
Yeah.
on her and make a name for herself too. So, but that was,
Yeah.
in the battle with was, do I take this and then her grandmother, it's like,
Yeah.
that was so touching because it's like you miss that moment to spend with your grandmother, but at the same time, it's like, what would she have wanted for you, to thrive
Right.
and do well in your career? So it was like a rock and a hard place, it was tough.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um,
Well,
yeah, I felt,
it's, I keep going back to the African American Museum because it was literally just yesterday. But there's an Oprah exhibit, and she said something that was so impactful
yeah,
for me. And I keep thinking about it. And she said that for her, the museum is a reminder of the price that's been paid for you and your life, and that you get
I
to
love
lead. And I thought about that, just in general. It really, that inspired me more than anything else. And I mean, and you just said that what you were saying just made me think about it with respect to Tabby. You think about her grandmother,
it.
and uh, even with her unique experience with her life as a white woman, but having chosen, well, not chosen, but by her choices, been enfranchised in an experience of a type of blackness, um, and having to deal with the emotional aftermath of being affected by race, that her grandmother kind of paid for that for
Mm-hmm.
her, and not, in that moment. But I think I'm, for me, at least in my mind, I think the reader can kind of see. I thought the funeral scene was important for Tabby because she could see, it was like she could see her life and her grandmother's life,
Mm-hmm.
like a complete life that's behind and ahead.
Right.
And so, so that I think, it's bittersweet. in that way, but and she had to go through, it wasn't something that I don't think anybody could just process through easily, and you need some help to kind of get past that guilt, because you would carry that with you, so she had to, trial by fire, she had to grow up, and
yeah, she definitely made her
we
grandmother
really
proud, and I think at the end of the day, that's what she needs to remember is Grandma Tabby would be proud of
yeah.
what you did, what you've accomplished. So hopefully she could rest peacefully,
Yeah.
knowing that her grandmother was proud of her, and all of that. And I'm glad that she had Grandma Tabby in that relationship, because her dad, another hot mess over there.
Oh,
And her mom too, though. Not even, both of them. Yeah, she's kind of Queenie in that sense, where she's abandoned by her parents and doesn't have a
yeah.
relationship. And Diane wanted to punch her too.
Yeah.
Although I was happy that Diane kind of relaxed in the end to be able to let Abby have a relationship with her dad and her sisters too, because I felt like that was the beginning of something. And it's also something that Grandma Tabby really wanted, was for that family to come together and be one
Mm-hmm.
again. So I was happy to see them be able to mend. And so another thing, like I'm looking through my notes and what I, the end, and hopefully everybody on here has read the book.
I know. You guys say spoiler alert.
Yeah, to end the book and know that she got her home, she's living her dream life, and she's pregnant. And I'm like, dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. I know.
So,
By whom?
this is going to be a trilogy. Right, exactly. And that's why I'm, okay, I need this next so that we can figure out. So, if you're able to, because this is going to be a trilogy, correct?
Yeah.
With Tabby. Okay, so if you can talk about, maybe a little bit about the second book and what to expect and when to expect it, that would be awesome.
Well, I promised y'all the book in September, so there will be book 2 in September. I've been working on it. I kind of have it in my head. The way that I write from an outline, and my writing process is not. I'm more about the story and where people are going, and the best part for me is character development. I love making these three-dimensional, complex beings that play with each other
Yes.
in this space, and play things out, and clash, and so that a lot of that is kind of done, and so I really am excited to I've been excited to revisit where they're going. So when I'm outlining for them, I have every character, where are they going
Nice.
in this episode of where we're going, because in my mind I know as a trilogy where we want to wind up as an arc.
Yeah.
So this second book, there's a really big question at the end, and I figured people probably maybe made some assumptions about it, but we really don't know who the father was, and we really have no, but we do know that Tabby's pregnant. So at the beginning of the next book, she will be pregnant. It will be a continuation from that space where we ended in the epilogue. And I thought it was important. So some of the people are like, well, it kind of wrapped up. I'm like, no, it really didn't. I answered all the questions that needed to be answered from the first book in the epilogue, and everything that's not answered in that epilogue is where we're starting in book 2. Because those are kind of doors that we can close, but the journey for Tabby continues, as does where there's just a lot of unanswered questions for Laila, for Lexi. Laila, she's still got to figure out. She's kind of got herself back together a little bit, but she's got to figure out, Laila's kind of got some Queenie situation going on, and she's, struggling with her mental health, and she's got to figure that out, and she's got to she's living with her parents, you know, so, and that wasn't what was going on before. So Layla kind of had like a Queenie. Well, she.
Bum, bum, bum. Okay, I'm back on Instagram, so if you're able to jump on, I know that Instagram. There we go. Hopefully everybody's able to join. Instagram, I forget, it cuts us off after an hour, and this usually it gives me a warning of when it's going to shut off, but this time it didn't, so it just kind of cut off. Okay. You go live. Yep. Trying to get back. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I forget that
okay.
Instagram is like it times you for an hour, so once you hit it, it just shuts off. But usually I'm using my work phone for that, and usually on my other phone it gives me like a 5-minute countdown so I was waiting for it to
okay.
and it never did. It just ended. So anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know people are probably like, wait, what? I'm gonna give people a little bit of a moment to come back on. Yeah. But I was saying, in the next book, also Lexi and Rob, you know, we've got to figure out where they're going. And I think the interesting thing is, with the relationships and not just the personal development, but these relationships, how they evolve and how or not grow. And right. I, you know, that's like something that for me is important, and I really enjoyed developing. Hey, I really enjoy developing people in that way, and even kind of, you know. So when I wrote this book, I looked at it as a mystery novel. So I know people are probably like, what? You know, but I look at it like a human mystery, because I'm like, why do people do this stuff? Mm-hmm. I always wonder that, like, why did they do that? You know, so I really wanted to kind of explore that, and then, you know, well, what else could they possibly do differently? You know, or what would make them grow or regress? Because like people are never. Some people stay the same, but things change them, and that's the fun as a writer. It's like, well, you know, I'm going to make this kind of collision. I can create whatever. Right. And so I can, you know, I want to see what is going to happen to this person in growth or regression. Right. And, you know, and so that's the fun for me. And so for book 2, there's a lot of questions to answer. It is not all wrapped up. And I think that it will be fun and surprising. And an enjoyable read.
I know.
Extension from the first.
I'm pulling for Tabby to have a girl so that we can have a 3.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. There you go, 1, 2, and we can have a 3.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I'm super.
I have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Look, there you go. And I'm super excited for that. So you said September is the time frame for And Baby Makes 2. So the cover, I'm probably going to set the pre-release up probably around July, and then do a cover release or a cover reveal and those kinds of things. So because I'm asking the same artist to do this cover. And I was going to ask that if you were going to have it kind of in sync with one another. And what was the inspiration behind the cover for this one?
Well, the book, so the title of the book, like, because the lesson I learned from Queenie about kind of marketing and positioning and messaging to readers is that you have to make sure that readers know what to expect. And for a title like Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, it's, you know, you don't know what you're getting exactly. Like, it could be heavy, it could be cheeky, it could be, you know, you don't know if it's funny, you know, and you kind of get told that in the marketing message, but just from the title alone, hey, Buffy, from the title alone, you don't know what you're getting. So for the cover, I wanted to make sure that I gave the message of the verdancy of life, of fullness, like a, you know, kind of a garden of life. So, and then some people didn't notice there was a brown Black woman in the, you know, in the cover itself. I thought that was really important from my perspective with the book. You know, the narrative, this concept of centering is, you know, cultural centering. I wanted to have an experience for a protagonist that was culturally centered in what the Black experience is as the norm, as a norm. Like, it's not an otherization. It's like, this is her life. This is what it's like. It's, you know, it's centered here. And so other people, you know, people that aren't Black are welcome to this narrative. But we're going to, you know, instead of being an other, and instead of there being a norm that's other than this norm, this is her norm. This is norm for her. And centered culturally here. So the woman on the cover is a brown-skinned Black woman with natural hair because that's normal for Black people. And so I wanted to kind of celebrate life, celebrate the cultural perspective that this narrative happens to come from, and make it be something that you could feel very proud of holding in your hands. I mean, like, as a book. Yeah, for me, especially, you know, as a Black woman, you know, thinking about this was written about a Black woman as a protagonist by a Black woman to celebrate the experience of being a Black woman and to acknowledge it. And so for me, I really wanted to be something that you could feel proud of, and, you know, that this is a solid, beautiful, quality representation of what's on the inside and who is representing. If I put Black girls on the cover of something, you know, then I'm going to make sure that it's quality and it represents us. So
yeah, it was a lot of fun to photograph. I can say that much.
Oh no, yeah. Well, you made such great photographs. I'm like, I really. Oh, they're so cute. I wouldn't have thought of that. I was doing the Read So Lit challenge, and I was like, how am I going to make this creative? I'm like, so thanks for those photo inspirations.
Oh, no
I'm
problem.
like, great.
Yeah. Photography does come in handy from time to time, but who knew that I'd be photographing books like this? It's crazy, but I absolutely love it. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, but the cover, I mean, it was absolutely a gorgeous book to photograph, so it made it easy.
Thank you.
No problem at all. So I cannot wait for the next book to come.
I know.
Do you have a timeline for the third book of when you're going to release? Is it going to be 2020?
It'll probably be the following September. It depends on where the writing goes for me. You know, the thing is with this book, because it's the first book and it's introducing the trilogy, I wanted to really give a full year for people to come into the book, to kind of discuss it, live into the space, become part of the community. Because, you know, I see this as sort of a community. You know, I really wanted to have the conversations. I want people to have the conversations. There is so much in this book, even from, you know, the experience of, you know, why are Black people concerned about police brutality, and, you know, the Daquan, like, you know, you know, when he got shot, and you know, and I thought about, you know, does he live or does he not live? You know, I spent a lot of time like on those kinds of like decisions. And again, like, oh well, this is something good to play out, because you never get to see the little boy asking for his mother, you know, or with his mother. You never really see, you hear about it after the fact. So it's like those kinds of things. I want to, you know, think about how I weave that into the trilogy as it continues. And I wanted to leave the space here. So it may be, I'll put it in the back of the second book when, but I don't like to say something and then not, if I'm going to put it out there, then it's going to be that. So I will, so if it's 6 months or a year, it's going to depend on where the wrap up of the trilogy is.
Right.
Because I don't want to tell you guys something and be like,
right.
oops.
Nope. Change your mind. Exactly. We'll be like, wait, what happened to that? Exactly.
I need an extension. Yeah, right? People would be, I know that would be a problem.
I'm so glad that you decided to do a trilogy, because I know for me, I like to see characters develop and see what happens to them. Even Queenie, like I would love to see
Yeah.
what happens to her after this. So, I love that you did that, and I'm looking forward to seeing the characters again. And I want to say this about Tabby too. I love that she continues to visit Miss Gretchen, even though her grandmother's passed away too. So hopefully that relationship continues on as they go. But I think that was very special that she still had that relationship with her, because I'm sure it meant a lot to Miss Gretchen to have her, like, this kid has no ties to the retirement home anymore to come
Yeah.
here. Yet she's still taking her time to make sure she comes to see Miss Gretchen as often as she can. So I thought that was really special
Yeah.
too.
And
Really.
Gretchen has a story. So that's the Ms. Gretchen has a story that, I mean, she's spunky and she's but I mean, I guess for me, like people getting to know me as a writer, nothing is ever exactly what it seems like and never will be. So
Yeah.
as you come to know me as a writer, and like what would be like Jayne Allen, and like that's Jayne Allen, nothing is ever exactly what it seems like. And I'm telling you guys that now. I'm telling you that. So don't be mad. but but yeah, so Gretchen, for the second book, I think it's important to have some of Gretchen's story come out, and really understand, well, why doesn't anybody come visit her? There were questions I had, even writing, that I wanted to know more about Ms. Gretchen, so I'm going to ask her and do an interview.
Until you just said that, I never really thought about it. But yeah, nobody does come and visit her because she's always with Grandma Tabby and Tabitha. So it's like she's always busy or doing something. So you never really think of the fact that nobody is coming to see her. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how Miss Gretchen pans out too, because she's one of my favorites. So
she's definitely one of my favorites. And yeah, I mean, everybody will be back in the next book that's still alive. It's not, it's not an I see dead people story. So.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yeah, so there, I mean, I think I'm excited for this. I'm excited to get it out and to kind of flesh it out. But where it's going, I'm really excited about where book 2 has kind of taken itself in my thinking and outlining. So I think people will have a good experience, and it'll be a journey. It will definitely be a journey.
We're excited for it. We absolutely love this, though. I know that the group, the book club especially, is going to be super excited for it. We raved about it, so
I'm so excited.
Yes, thank you for sharing your gifts with us, and for coming on and taking the time to talk about your book. And I know you're a busy woman. And I also want to throw this out here too, is that Jayne is coming to Atlanta on the 18th of this month. So I'll actually get to meet you in a week and a half in person.
I'm so excited. I know. Yeah. So I've been doing Rent the Runway Unlimited, and this is not a plug for them. It's been fun because I was like, I got to pick my outfit for Atlanta.
Yeah. You have back-to-back. You're going to Charlotte as well, aren't you, the day after that?
Yeah, Charlotte and Atlanta.
Wow.
So I literally just picked my outfit. I had to do it today so that it will get here in time, because I have a business trip on the front end and then I come there. But I can't wait to meet you. And I appreciate. I want to say to you and to everybody watching, thank you so much for the support, because honestly, this book is nothing without the community and the women and the people that have come to it and tell other people and push it forward. And that was kind of my dream, that I would do this for us and give it to us. And we take it from
there. You're welcome, and thank you. I can't say this enough, but I know as a Black bookstagrammer, getting books and things like this in our hands and getting the author's attention and time is huge for us. We get overlooked so much. So to have the time, that means so much to me. And so I hope with book 2 we're able to do this again.
This is what it is. This is for us. And in my dream of writing this, I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to sit with, I could just imagine the conversations. That's what I wanted. So I'm definitely, sign me up now.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Yes.
And we'll figure the Facebook thing out too. 'Cause I'm technically challenged,
Yeah.
but hopefully people got. It's completely my fault. But I hope people got out of it on Facebook. Also, they could.
Yep. There's some people that can hear you on both, so there's still some people hanging out on Facebook. And I plan to find a way to save this on Instagram so that I can upload it to YouTube, and then people can come back to it as well. So
okay,
yeah,
good.
We'll get it situated, and I'll send you the link to that once I'm able to do that. But
yeah,
thank you so much.
I'll post it.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
They loved it. Yes, no problem.
Oh yeah, this
you guys
has been fun for me. Yes. Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.